This episode of Wild Talk, we're heading to the damp West Coast forest and we're talking mushroom foraging. I'm joined by Paul Kane from Sea to Sky Mushrooms, and we dig into some tips and tricks that'll keep your basket full this season. Some of these ones that you're going to ingest, they're going to kill you.
Yes.
I know there's one called the vomiter, and that's for good reason, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of the mushrooms that will cause gastric upset in the woods for sure. With all the species that have been found lately and up until now, there is a small select few that'll really take you out. The chances of finding those really toxic ones are relatively rare. For me as a forager, if I do find out in BC, we get the death cap mushroom.
Yes.
If I ever come across that or find that, I'm totally geeking out, and not for the fact of I'm going to eat it and cook it up, but just to see it, study it, and do a little hands-on research with that mushroom. To me, it's super cool.
And then later on Tools of the Trade, I'm joined by Ryan from Browning. We dig into their latest gear and how it helps hunters perform at their best. Stick around. We got the fungus among us on Wild Talk. I'm your host, Steve Hamilton, and you are watching Wild Talk. This episode of Wild Talk is brought to you by Hornady. Accurate, deadly, dependable. Bronc Beer. Great fucking beer. Umarex Air Guns. Hunt with air. Wild TV Plus, where the hunts never end. All right, everybody, this episode of Wild Talk, I say it every time when I do an intro. It's going to be fun. This is a subject that I really want to know more about. I know a lot of you, our listeners, our viewers, want to know a lot more about. So I finally managed to track down the mushroom forager from Instagram, Paul. This is going to be an epic conversation. We've actually tried to set this conversation up for a few months now, but peak foraging season during the spring didn't work out, and we managed to work it today. So Paul, huge thanks for joining me today.
Oh, thanks for having me, my friend. It's a pleasure, truly.
Yeah.
And I do apologize for it taking a little bit longer than we needed, but I think both of us were quite busy, and I was out of cell service a lot, so I apologize. But here we are.
Here we are, and if anybody checks you out on Instagram, they'll see why you were so busy for the last couple of months. Just every time I turn around, I'm like, oh, he's out there. They're searching for morels and doing some great videos. So let's dig into it. So you're the mushroom forager on Instagram. Obviously, that's something that you're passionate about. So talk to me a little bit about how you got into mushroom foraging. How did you discover it?
Yeah, I think likely the same way a lot of people, just fascinated by something that I knew absolutely nothing about, loving to be in the woods from previous activities and things I used to do anyway. So I was always out there. And even before I knew what wild mushrooms were, I was that person in the woods that was always kind of running around and stopping and photographing and pulling them out of the ground and neat. I would even look back sometimes in some of my old pictures where I had all these pictures of mushrooms and I had no idea what they were or how much they were worth or how popular they were in the culinary scene. So just a love for being out there and trying to figure out some fascinating things, which were the mushrooms.
So you kind of fell by it naturally.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's quite a ways back, and I got to move out to British Columbia in 2013, and that's where the exploring and the love even intensified there. So.
Right. So was there a defining moment that made you go, this is what I want to do? Or was there a particular mushroom that made you say, this is what I'm passionate about?
You know what? Yeah, I've been asked this a few times, and it always goes back to a couple things. I got my first mushroom grow bag way back in the day, just kind of accidentally stumbling across a market, and they were out there. So I purchased one of those, and I connected with the individual selling them, and I actually had a few more sent to my house in Whistler, and I just started growing the mushrooms through the bags just with a little mister, and I was so fascinated by how that aspect was, and being able to grow these mushrooms in your home, which I was generally used to finding them in the woods and buying them at grocery stores. So that sparked and really kicked in my wanting to learn more about cultivating and growing the mushrooms. And then uh, when I, like I told you, when I moved out to British Columbia, and my horizon broadened with all of the different types of mushrooms that were available in British Columbia compared to where I currently grew up in Ontario.
Hmm.
Um, that really, those two things were the key moments that really kicked me into wanting to work with them more. And I did do that while working, I guess you could say, a corporate job for the entirety of my life. And then COVID, COVID came into play, and I had sea to sky mushrooms established in 2016, 2017. Um, and I was working full time, and I was trying to start this mushroom business on the side and selling my mushrooms to restaurants and all that. And then COVID hit. And then when COVID hit, it put me indoors for 2 months, like it did everybody.
Hmm.
And that's when I just really put the pen to paper and built a business around what I was already doing, and quickly realized that the Sea to Sky specifically was really interested in getting those gourmet products to them so accessibly through a forager that lived out in that area. So yeah, it's a long term project that I was working on, but COVID really kicked it
Right, right. So we're going to pause things here. We'll pick up this conversation right after this break. And we are back with more Wild Talk. You mentioned that there was somebody there that you kind of learned from. So you had a mentor.
Yeah, and he always hates it when I bring him up, but my general manager at the time at the corporation I was working with was big into mushrooms as well.
Okay.
And when I moved to BC, we initially kicked it off because we both liked mushrooms, and he's like, "Well, we'll get out there and we'll go around." And as I told you, I was so blown away by the variety in the woods. And he was there with me telling me, oh, you can eat that, you can't eat that, leave that alone. So I foraged closely with him for quite a while, and then obviously branched out. I ended up leaving the corporate role, and took the woods on full time. So um,
Right.
yeah, but I still keep great contact with him to this day, and we still get out every year and do our annual forages. So
So you mentioned coming from Ontario to BC and the abundance of mushrooms, and I know that's something whenever I'm out there, I'm looking around, I'm going, okay, that's a mushroom. That's a mushroom. That's a mushroom. Okay, I think I recognize that as chicken of the woods. So talk about some of the most common mushrooms that you find out here in BC that the average forager might overlook.
yeah, well, we get the what I always like, especially when I'm taking people out, or telling anyone, we get the top five out
Mhm.
here that are really sought after for getting out in the woods and looking for, but extremely sought after by the chefs to get those to the restaurant so they can cook with them. The first one being the chanterelle mushroom. We have a variety of species of chanterelles that grow here in the Pacific Northwest, and that would be the most common and I would say sought after mushroom for most of the foragers. We have an amazing mushroom that only grows in and around areas of the Pacific Northwest, and that's the lobster mushroom.
Mhm.
And we get that mushroom yearly. It comes early in the season, and then we get a big flush near the end of the season of that one. Of course, the porcini or the king bolete, which is highly regarded in the culinary world and for the foragers as well. We get the other one, which is Hericium, which is the cousin of the lion's mane mushroom. So we get those species that grow out here also. And there's plenty of wild mushrooms that grow, but the top five, and the last one's drawing a blank to me. The hedgehog mushroom, sorry,
Okay,
which is
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
sweet
yeah.
tooth mushroom, which is very similar to the chanterelle too. So those are the top five mushrooms that I focus on yearly, and I do know a lot of the other foragers focus on as well.
So obviously those would be some of the safest to learn to identify.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, and that is a great topic to bring up too, and
Yes.
making sure you're picking the right mushrooms and getting that knowledge before you start picking the mushrooms to make sure you're keeping yourself safe out there. And yeah, some of those species more so don't have as many lookalikes than compared to the other ones, but some of those species do have lookalikes that
Right.
you do want to watch out for or learn a little bit more before you go picking the wrong mushroom.
Yeah. Last year we were up north of town here, about 20 minutes, and I'm driving down the Forest Service Road early September, and I go, "There's something orange there." And I look over, and I knew it immediately as a lobster mushroom. It was beautiful, and it was my first one I'd ever found. I was over the moon. And,
Yeah,
but that was an easy one for me to identify. Like, I'm comfortable with them. I'm comfortable with the fire morels. They're
yeah,
pretty easy to identify. But again, you get those ones that pop up. You see it in the social media all the time. You get is this a morel? And it's not. It's one of the uh, the fake looking ones. So
yeah. The
although
false
those ones
morels.
I've heard Ganymetra or something like that. Is that something like that?
Yeah,
But but those ones
it's
I've heard, if you cook them, they're not toxic. Is that a myth, or is that
just cooking them is a myth for sure. So it's a delicacy, and I might be geographically wrong here, but I believe in France. And
okay?
there's a long process of boiling the toxins out of the mushroom before you cook it. Even so toxic to a point where it's recommended while you're boiling those large pots of that false morel to even do it around hood vents, just to
Really?
really get yeah. So and then as you do that boiling process, then you can cook it. And it's definitely a mushroom I've never recommended or even guided someone to learn that process or take it on. I always do classify it as a toxic mushroom and just to stay away from it.
Safe bet.
Um, a cool mushroom though, definitely pick it up
Mm.
and check it out, but I wouldn't recommend cooking it without doing some vast knowledge on that one.
All right, that's where we're going to leave it for now. Stay tuned. We'll chat more with Paul after the break.
Stream past episodes of Wild Talk at wildtvplus.ca.
Welcome back, everybody, to Wild Talk. Let's continue this conversation on foraging and mushrooms with Paul from Sea to Sky Mushrooms. You mentioned something that there's a lot of talk on social media. You said, go ahead, pick it up and look at it. No mushrooms are going to essentially wear through your skin and give you like a contact poisoning, are they?
Yeah, you're not going to get any contact. You do have to watch what you touch and then what you put into your mouth afterwards, for
Yes.
sure. I have heard some stories about that, the contamination crossing paths that way through touch and putting your fingers in your mouth or eating something afterwards. But you're fairly safe, and I still wouldn't want to tell everyone to go out there and do it. But from my experience, from
Right.
years and years, decades, you're relatively safe to get in there, pick it up, have a look at it, take some pictures of it, and then put it back down where you found it. Do your research, and if you did hit a gold mine, go back there, or if not, then you're going to live to tell the story.
Exactly. So what for me as a new forager, I come across a mushroom that I want to check edibility for. What would the process be to make sure it's safe?
Yeah, there's a number of processes for sure. I would say recently, within the last 5 to 6 years, we've started, since the popularity of foraging has really ballooned, we've started to see a lot of apps hit the scene now. And some of them you can take with a grain of salt, but there are a few apps that are very, very, very accurate. And they're not the final decision, but they're a fantastic guide in reaching the final decision if that is an edible or a toxic mushroom or one to stay away from. So, and then if you go back a little more old school, and most foragers and mushroom experts will tell you it is the way to go. We take a little bit, we do a spore print of the mushroom when we get home. That's going to get us some knowledge. That's going to get us closer to that final decision. Um, Whenever you do kind of hone in on thinking you do have that wild mushroom, that you've done all your research and due diligence, ask some more experts, put it up to a community forum, all those things, then we're going to try a little bite. we're gonna take a quarter size piece of that mushroom off. We're gonna fry it up, cook it really, really well, and we're gonna eat that mushroom, go to bed, let the day pass, and if you wake up the next day or within 12 to 24 hours, if you're feeling great, you've likely found that mushroom that you've been researching, and it's likely going to be an edible mushroom. So
Right.
if I would say, I don't really know too many other ways to really go about finding that edibility or versus non-edibility. You could take it one step closer, and you could hire a forager, and you can get them out there, and they can teach you out in the field, which I always think is a great thing as well.
Yeah, it goes back to that finding a mentor, and when in doubt,
Yeah,
don't.
yeah, exactly.
Right, it's not worth it. I saw a great comment, I guess, depending on your point of view, a few years ago in a mushroom forum, and somebody said, "Can I eat this mushroom?" And the person said, "Yes, once."
Yeah,
Right, you can eat anything once.
yeah, that's
So
true. And
yeah,
that's great. That's a great thing it puts a little comedy on it as well, but
that's right.
a serious point, but for sure. And I hear that all the time, and I'm guilty of using that line. And you can
Oh
eat
yeah,
any mushroom once.
yeah. It got the attention of people. They were all like, "Oh yeah." Like, I still see some comments in social media groups of somebody. They'll post a picture of a mushroom and they'll say, I cooked it last night and I'm not feeling well today, and they have no idea what they've cooked. So
Right.
it's just some of these ones that you're going to ingest, they're going to kill you. And I know
Yes.
there's one called the vomiter, and that's for good reason, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There's a lot of the mushrooms that will cause gastric upset in the woods for sure, with
Hmm.
all the species that have been found lately and up until now. There is a small select few that'll really take you out. So the chances of finding those really toxic ones are relatively rare. For me as a forager, if I do find out in BC, we get the death cap mushroom,
Yes.
and if I ever come across that or find that, I'm totally geeking out, and not for the fact of I'm going to eat it and cook it up, but just to see it, study it, and do a little hands-on research with that mushroom. To me, it's
Hmm.
super super cool.
Yeah,
Um,
that's one of the more deadly ones out here, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Okay, the other one I've heard of is the destroying angel. Is that
destroying
one right?
angel. Yeah, yeah, and I think, and quote me if I'm wrong. I need to do a lot more, or fact check me here. I need to do a lot more research, but I do think that's the same mushroom.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, I do think so. Could be wrong. Could be making myself look silly out here,
Oh,
but
hey, I would rather err on the side of caution because both are going to have the same effect if they're
yeah,
not, right?
absolutely.
All right, that's where we're going to leave it for now. Stay tuned. We'll chat more with Paul after the break. Welcome back to Wild Talk, everybody. This Tools of the Trade segment, I'm joined by our friends from Browning, Canada. Today I've got Ryan. Ryan, huge thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, and I'm excited to be here.
I love talking with you guys. So knowledgeable, and the product is top notch. I run a couple of Browning items, but what we're here to talk about today is the 825 shotgun. So let's dig right into that. If you want to tell our viewers a little bit about it.
Absolutely. The A25 was released in the fall, and they immediately started to ship the field models and the sporting models. There's a number of different models available within it, but they share certain common features. Browning uses something called total barrel dynamics, and so that's considering everything from a chrome lined chamber, the forcing cone, the overbore, as well as the specific chokes that they use. This one happens to have the Browning Invector DS chokes in it. The recoil pad is an influx recoil pad, so the recoil attenuation is very, very good on this over and under. And this is the evolution of the 625 and the 725 and the 825, as you can tell, which are all a continuation of the Browning B25, which was introduced a very, very long time ago.
Oh, it's a beautiful piece of machinery. I checked it out online. I've never actually got to see one in person, but it's definitely on my list to take a look at. It's, yeah, as you said, it's an over-under, and it's gorgeous. So
Yeah,
go ahead.
they're fantastic. They have, I mean, the features just go on and on. On the sporting models, there's a small palm swell. The trigger is adjustable. There's 3 different trigger shoes that comes with it, and it's adjustable in 3 different places as well. They do not have ported barrels, which the majority of the sporting models in the 725s did have ported barrels, which is a feature I actually like quite a bit. They have a really, really nice matte finish to them as well. The field model has a blued finish to it. Nice wood on them, and I would have to say, more than anything, is that they're really, really easy to shoot. The first time shooting sporting clays, I picked up, I think, probably 8 more targets, and I shoot quite a lot of sporting clays, mainly with field guns. But as soon as I started using the sporting version, I thought, this is a fantastic piece of equipment.
Oh, so it's beginner friendly, it's experienced shooter friendly, it handles recoil well, and as an added bonus, it looks great. So
yeah, they're absolutely beautiful. The design is fantastic, and it's been around for a very, very long time as well.
Oh,
so
it's
tried, true.
It's gorgeous to look at. Like I said, but there's something else we want to talk about here, and that is the long time coming A5 20 gauge. That's exciting. So what was the driver to bring that forward?
Yeah, so the A5 has been around for a long time. The 20 gauge is the next evolution in the line of the A5. They had the 12 gauge and the 16 gauge, commonly referred to as the Sweet 16. And the next step was to go to the 20 gauge, has a scaled receiver on it, so it's not just a 12 gauge with a smaller barrel on it.
Right.
And these are an inertia drive gun. And it's available in a field model with a wood stock, 26, 28-inch barrels. Also has removable choke tubes. That's pretty common standard feature. The 26-inch model weighs 5 pounds 9 ounces. The 28-inch model weighs 5 pounds 10 ounces. So it's a very, very lightweight gun.
Oh, the 20 gauge is such a versatile round. I've got a couple of 12 gauges. I've got 16, I got 410, but the one that comes out the most to me is a 20 gauge. It's a great upland bird gun. The recoil is very, very manageable if you're out there shooting all day. It's just, they're cheap to feed too. So what I want to know as we start to wrap this up is, where can somebody find these things if they want to check them out?
So the A25 currently is at Browning dealers that have ordered them, and the A5 will be released this summer.
Man, I can't wait to get my hands on one of these. So awesome. Thanks again, Ryan, for joining me today on Wild Talk. I'm excited to get my hands on one of these. So I'm going to go check one out. Thanks, Ryan.
Super. I appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Stream past episodes of Wild Talk at wildtvplus.ca.
And we're back with more Wild Talk. We're talking mushrooms. We're talking with Paul. Let's get right into it. So I pick a mushroom out of the ground. What are some of the key physical features that an app or a mentor is going to be looking at for a positive identification minus a spore print?
Yeah, and that'll vary from species for sure, because some species have gills, some species have false gills. Some species are much more porous than others. When you're looking at the bolete, it looks like a sponge compared to having it has no gills whatsoever. So there's a lot of different ways you can look at that for sure. And one of the main things, and I always say a lot of the main things, is just check out the stipe, the stem, cut the mushroom open. Let's see if it's hollow. Let's see if it's firm, and then obviously the gills. And this ties in more for specific species. some of the edible mushrooms do have gills. Some of the edible mushrooms don't have gills. So
Hmm.
it really depends on what species you're targeting, and that's probably a good thing to mention too. Is that when you are going out into the woods, it's great to look for everything, but just like anything, maybe do a little bit of research of what you want to find, and kind of focus the day on that, trying to track down that mushroom, and then you'll
Right.
have a much easier time learning the different varieties of mushrooms when you kind of take it on one at a time, opposed to gills, no gills, and vice versa. So
That
it's
makes a
yeah,
lot of sense, right? So somebody's out in the woods. What specific signs? I'm looking for chanterelles.
yeah.
As a newbie, what specific signs are going to tell me I'm in the right spot? What kind of habitat am I looking for?
Yeah, we're going to spend our time in coniferous forests for sure. If we're going after the white chanterelle, we're going to look in old growth forests. If we're going after the rainbows or the golden chanterelles, we're going to look at more second stage growth forests. Um, Douglas firs is Douglas fir is a fantastic tree to learn and try to find where big clumpings of those are. The chanterelles really associate with that tree
Okay.
specifically. Um, and yeah, and then when we get to what we think we might find the chanterelle, same thing, we're going to pull it out of the ground. We're going to give it a nice smell. If it smells kind of apricot-y
Mhm.
and something you want to eat kind of as is, that's a great telltale sign you found a chanterelle. The We're going to cut that open. Most of the species of chanterelles that grow here in the Pacific Northwest are not hollow. We do have one that is hollow, so we're going to look for that firm flesh, that white flesh inside the chanterelle, even though it will be gold or yellow on the outside. And then yeah, and then we're going to look for the false gills. So we're not going to. It's a tough one to describe for someone new into chanterelles, but the best way that I like to describe it is we're going to look for veins, and instead
Okay.
of where you would typically see the gills on your normal, if you get a portobello at the grocery store and you look underneath and it's lined with those gills, those all of those lines are what we call gills. With the chanterelle, you're going to see it almost like a vein. It's more attached to the actual stem and the mushroom. So
Okay.
you're not going to see gills on those. And then that's another telltale sign that you found a chanterelle. And then yeah, and then after you follow those steps, take one home, cook one up, try it. And if you're feeling good and great, then the next day you can definitely eat a lot more.
Right, right. Chanterelles, like I said, I'm a brand new to mushrooms, but from my research, chanterelles have a toxic lookalike jack-o'-lantern.
Jack-o'-lanterns, yeah, and definitely one to stay away from. And it's going to cause some gastric upset, some major gastric upset, and yeah, you definitely, that the jack-o'-lantern is the lookalike for the chanterelle. But once you really once you find your
Mhm.
first chanterelle, compare the pictures, do your research. You're gonna be able to very easily distinguish between the two after you've kind of got your hands into them. And then it's like they say, once you find your first one, you just kind of get tuned into finding it, and then
Right.
you'll get to a stage where you won't even need to pick them up anymore, and you'll be like, oh, those are jack-o'-lanterns, oh, those are
Yeah.
chanterelles. So
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Jack-o'-lanterns tend to grow in clumps. Chanterelles grow singular.
yeah, less clustery for sure. I do have some posts up in too. I have found some rather large clusters of chanterelles for
Oh,
sure. But it is a mushroom that does generally grow in solitude.
so it's not always a tell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, and generally lots of them around, but you'll typically only find one coming out of the forest floor
Gotcha.
at a time.
We're going to pause things here. We'll pick up this conversation right after this break. And we are back with more Wild Talk. So I want to go out and look for chanterelles. I know the type of habitat that I'm looking at. Is there a specific season that's better for one mushroom than another? Like, is there something you can forage in February that's not there in March, then not there
Yeah.
in April? So what's that look
Oh,
like?
absolutely, absolutely, and all around the world in the different areas, you're going to have also it's kind of like different seasons as well, and they don't typically all follow each other. And you'll get early summer flushes of some mushrooms, and you'll get late flushes of the others. A lot of the mushrooms out there, the pine mushroom, for example, in our
Mm,
area of the Pacific Northwest, loves a good drop in temperature before it likes to pop up. So that is one of the mushrooms that we'll be foraging really late into the season.
Okay.
And if the season is great and the humidity is awesome and we're getting lots of precipitation, we're going to get a nice early flush of the pine mushroom as well in August and September. But that, as mentioned, that can lead deep into November, even pushing December before the pine mushrooms disappear on us.
Hmm.
And then that really goes for all of them. We get, if the conditions are right, we're going to get an early summer flush of most of the varieties that I spoke about, the top 5. We're going to get currently right now, and for the past month, I've been picking lobster mushrooms in the sea to sky. I've found a few chanterelles. The white chanterelle really likes to come up early in the summer season, and then they won't go away, but they'll slow down through August, and then
Okay.
September when the rains start to come. We're going to get a big flush of all those mushrooms, and that's when the forests are just going to come alive with the hericiums and all that. So
Yeah.
fall is definitely what we're looking forward to. But if you know the right spots and the conditions are just right, we're going to get that early summer flush of most of the edibles as well.
That would explain your post on Instagram earlier today. You had a clip of the weather and it was raining and you were like dancing to it. You were excited that
Yeah,
it's coming.
yeah, we're experiencing quite a dry spell this season. Where
Okay.
looking back at last season through the pictures and just all the notes, we were we were picking every day, buckets and buckets. And this season, we're just going out to have fun and take some pictures and hopefully get enough for dinner type thing. So it's we're really excited for the rain that's supposed to come today and tomorrow and
Right.
last into the week. For many reasons, let's get some rain on the forest fires as well, and let's let that rain sink into the forest floor for.
That's right. It's a rebirth type time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So talk a little bit about mushroom picking etiquette. Like you see it sometimes where you'll have a huckleberry bush and you'll take 2 berries, leave 1 berry. Is there something like that, or do you cut them from the mycelium? Do you pull them? Things like that.
Yeah, the huckleberry one's funny because one of the pickers and my business partner that we get out in the woods a lot. He just abandons everything and will just stand at the huckleberry bush and just eat them all day, and we'll lose them in the woods. But
I can't blame
um,
you. I love
yeah,
huckleberries.
they're delicious. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's a great season for them currently right now. So, but yeah, it's etiquette is something that I preach often, and whenever I take anyone into the woods, a big part of my day doing that is teaching them how to sustainably forage, leave no trace, respect the land that we're on, know the rules, know where we're allowed to forage, where we're not allowed to forage, and just be as light as possible in the woods. For foraging, the trail systems are fantastic, but if we really want to get some great mushrooms, we do have to get off the trails. So it's just about not avoiding that, but just stepping lightly and just
Right.
making sure you're doing the least impact to the forest around you while you're looking for those mushrooms.
Right.
Um, Leave no trace is a huge thing. I think that's in everyone's vocabulary, whether you're a hunter, outdoor travel enthusiast. So that's a big one that I practice and teach as well. Sustainable harvesting, absolutely. Let's not take everything. Let's leave some for the animals. Let's leave some for the other foragers. Let's leave some for the other families out there trying to get something. Um, so sustainable foraging is a big thing for sure, and I think that resonates with a lot of foragers and a learning process, or in the learning process you're going to hear that a lot. And yeah, and I think giving back for sure. And one of the ways I do it is just that is spending the time, the 10, 15 minutes, and really going through all those steps with anyone that I'm foraging with, whether it's a friend, whether it's clients, whatever it is. Just really sharing that aspect of it with them.
Love it. That leave no trace, the minimal impact is so
Yeah,
important for hunters, anglers, foragers, gatherers, campers, hikers. We need to do our part to leave it better for the next generation. So
yeah.
let's just pause right here for a moment. We'll see you soon. Check out these messages from our fine sponsors. This episode of Wild Talk is brought to you by Hornady. Accurate, deadly, dependable. Bronc Beer. Great fucking beer. Umarex Air Guns. Hunt with Air.
Wild TV Plus, where the hunts never end.
All right, we're back with more Wild Talk. Let's jump right into it with Paul from Sea to Sky Mushrooms. Let's kind of pivot a little bit. We've talked about the science of things and how to identify, but are there any mushrooms that people tend to overlook that you go, those are delicious?
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny that you say that, and we were just talking about it too. And that is the lobster mushroom, and it comes. It's one of the best tasting mushrooms. It's one of the easiest for beginners to find, but it's heavily overlooked by the home picker and the chefs as well because they just don't know tons about it. It's they hear about how it comes to be the lobster mushroom, and it kind of creeps a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people out, and then they never really give that one a chance. And again, it's a big, bright orange, red kind of mushroom sitting in the forest, and most of the knowledge that someone just getting out is started is don't touch the red mushrooms or don't touch the bright colored mushrooms, leave
Right.
them alone. So I would say it's definitely here in BC. Um, it's one of the most overlooked mushrooms. Um, Chanterelles have kind of that commercial appeal where it's very common. You're going to find them in lots of restaurants, see them on most menus. So I do think the vast majority of people understand what a chanterelle is. So that's a pretty easy one to not walk by and make sure you pick up. And then some mushrooms new to the scene, like I mentioned, the hericium. Um, we get some fantastic species of those out here in the Pacific Northwest, and that mushroom's often overlooked just because of how awesome it looks. It's that the hericium is in the same genus as the lion's mane mushroom, and I
Mm-hmm.
think some of the viewers might know a lot more about that one or be like, oh, that's what he's talking about. But we get a few different species. I always like to say the brother and sister of the lion's mane that we can get in and around here in our area. So those would be the main ones that are often overlooked, and it's fine with me because I'm happy
More
to
for
take
you.
one. Yeah,
More for you. Yeah, like I said, that lobster driving by it, I'm like, wait a minute. I knew exactly what it was, and I was over the
yeah,
moon, but it was obvious what it was. It was 2 feet off the road, so I couldn't have been the only person that had seen it, right?
yeah,
So
absolutely.
do you have any like rarest or most exciting mushrooms you've ever found? You're like, wow, I never expected to find that.
You know what? A few of them we get. The one that and I've only found it about 5 or 6 times here in British Columbia is the blue chanterelle,
Okay.
and knew nothing about it coming out here. Didn't know it existed. When I first picked it, I remember going to a group forum, and this was over a decade ago. And I said, I was told black trumpets don't grow here. I think I found a black trumpet, and everyone on the forum was like, no, that's the blue chanterelle. They grow out here, and I knew nothing about it. So when I
Cool.
first found that mushroom in a really special spot, just a little north of Whistler, that one really blew me away for sure. Just the beauty of it and how awesome it was, and knowing nothing about it, and just stumbling across this, as I told you, what I thought was a black trumpet, a totally different mushroom.
Yeah.
And I was quickly educated when I put it onto that community group that was actually the blue chanterelle, and then I jumped into the rabbit hole of that mushroom and learned everything I could. And even to this day, I can find one, maybe two a year, and I spend a good amount of days looking for that mushroom. So
So do these patches show up year after year?
they do
Okay.
absolutely, and I guess the mycelium's in the forest floor there, and that's
Right.
why they are going to continue to show up every year. And what it's waiting for is the proper temperatures, the proper precipitation, proper temperatures, and all that stuff. And if you don't, if the forest floor doesn't get that, we are going to see them, but nowhere near the numbers. It's a perfect season, and they might not come back every single year, but their DNA, so to speak, is in that soil with the mycelium. So as long as like I said, the conditions are good, they'll be in there.
Okay, awesome. So we're going to pause things here. We'll pick up this conversation right after this break. We are back with more Wild Talk. So as we start to wrap this up, what kind of resources, where should somebody go if they want to learn about safe mushroom foraging?
Yeah, I think there's a few amazing tour guides here in British Columbia. Um, I would love to plug myself, but I really only just take out friends and people I meet along the way. I don't actually have too much of a business of taking people into the woods. I will take people out into the woods. You'll see it up on my website, but I partner along with other mycologists and groups to do that. So I guess I could plug myself. You could definitely
Sure.
reach out to me, and we could get something set up and get the professionals in here to help us and get out there. Um, there are a few other awesome companies out there. Foraging for You is a friend of mine who I've recently just connected with.
Rayanne,
Yeah, oh yeah, okay, yeah, there you go. Yeah, she runs a fantastic program out of
she's
Chilliwack.
great.
Yeah, and I recently reached out to her because, as I just told you, um, I like to put the events on. I don't necessarily like to be the go-to leader in the woods because I have too much fun out there, and I just get sidetracked. And I always feel when I bring in a collaborator, we just have the best events.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that she's great. There's a few other ones out there that the names aren't coming to me, and they're going to message me and be like, "Hey, why didn't you?" So I apologize in advance. But yeah, I think there's a wealth of knowledge here in BC. There's some fantastic foragers. I would really just do a lot of it yourself. Jump onto Instagram, Your Wildest Foods, which is an amazing company. My friend Matt he's out in Harrison, but he's very prominent in the Vancouver area. His Instagram has a wealth of knowledge of when things are happening and where to find them. My Instagram, that's the whole purpose of what I try to do with my Instagram is give people that foraging experience from their home or their cell phone. Um, so everything you're going to see on a forage and all the places you're going to go, and then even some cooking knowledge and stuff like that. So my Instagram is a place to find that knowledge as well. And then yeah, just reach out to the foragers, talk to them. Um, you'll rarely bump into a forager who doesn't want to take you out into the woods. So as long as you can get that
Mhm.
connection, then I think you'll be able to find a tour for sure.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. Let's finish it with a fun one.
Yeah.
So you're stuck on a desert island. You've got one mushroom species for the rest of your life that you get to cook and eat. What is it,
Yeah.
and how do you cook it?
Oh man, I would say it would absolutely have to be probably the chicken of the woods. You mentioned that
Okay.
earlier.
Yep.
That is a fantastic mushroom that we get out here. We're going to get that at the really, really early stage, so it's nice and soft. We're only going to cut kind of the 2 inches off the end. We're going to leave that stump attached to the tree, and we're going to get that mushroom home, get it in the fridge, chop it up into little thin slices, and we're going to make chicken strips with the chicken of the wood mushroom. Go through the whole process, batter it up, get your favorite batter going. What I like to do, my little insider tip first, and I eat these a lot, is boil them, give them a good 5 to 10 minute boil first, really kind of open up the pores, and then get your flavors, get your seasoning, and then get some avocado oil or coconut oil and fry it up on the stove top. And you wouldn't even know that it wasn't chicken tenders. You would totally think you're eating chicken tenders. So
That's
that's a really fun recipe that I always love to cook.
next time I find chicken of the woods, I'm gonna try that.
Yeah,
We'll see how it goes. So a huge thanks for joining me today, Paul. I'm so
welcome.
glad we could finally connect. Look forward to seeing what you come up with on Instagram in the next couple of months.
Thanks so much. Pleasure. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
This episode of Wild Talk is brought to you by Hornady. Accurate, deadly, dependable. Bronc Beer. Great fucking beer. Umarex Air Guns. Hunt with air. Wild TV Plus, where the hunts never end.